Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Devoted Heart Lauren. Today's theme, I am continuing with the exploration of the Yama and Niyama. So last week was for the new moon. I did a theme around that. But the week before, I started with Ahimsa, the first Yama, non-harming, and it was about radiating love. So I'm moving to the second Yama, which is Satya today. Satya is truth. And truth, it sounds, it's something that is an obvious word and concept in some ways to us, like tell the truth, don't lie, live truthfully, these sorts of things. However, the concept of truth is actually very profound, as we can all find something that, for example, that I find to be absolutely true, that someone else would completely disagree with. Right? And we can find that in any relationship almost, right? So looking at what is the truth and what is not, or what is the difference between truths that always exist, perhaps, if that's even a thing, and what are truths that are just temporary, that are just in this moment. So right now, for example, I'm in New York. I'm upstate from where I usually reside in Jersey City. And so that is true right now. However, later I'm going back to my home, and so that will no longer be true. Right now, it might be true that I'm feeling hungry or tired or stressed or any of those sorts of feelings, right? And later, that might no longer be the case. So looking at the difference between temporary truths and permanent truths is something that I really tune into for the practice, the yama of Satya. My title for today was Your Truth is Valid. And I really love talking about this as related to Satya because everything that you feel and think is valid. It's not, I think that it's not useful to make yourself wrong in anything that you think or feel, even if in a larger sense, in an absolute sense, it's actually not true, right? So I can have something temporary, like I'm hungry or I'm tired. Okay, that's true now and won't be true later. Or I can have an experience, I can have a reaction, a feeling as a result of something that somebody said or did. And then I can start to make up stories or figure out why. Why did they say that? Why did they do that? What do they think about me? All these things, all these fill in the blank sorts of things, right? So I can start to create my own perspective of the truth based on things outside of myself that have happened or that have been said. And it's not that what I feel and think is wrong. It's not that what I feel and think is invalid. However, it might not be aligned with the other person's perspective and the other person's truth. Right? So they may have said something that I took in a certain way, and in fact, they didn't mean that at all. Maybe they were hungry and tired, right? That's something that happens a lot. We get agitated based on a lack of physical fulfillment, but lack of our needs being met in a very earth-based way, and then we get grumpy, right? We're all big babies at the end of the day. We all just want to be fed and held and taken care of. So looking at what is my experience of the truth based on this situation, but then also being open to a broader sense of truth, a more permanent truth, or just the array of perspectives that exist, the glimmers of light that exist that can all be valid, right? So it's valid for me to have an experience of whatever it was that happened, that was said, okay? And then it's also valid for the other person to be like, oh, that's crazy. Like, why would you think that? I just said this because I just got off the phone with my mother and she said something that annoyed me. Or I just said this because I woke up and I wasn't thinking clearly, right? I just felt a little grumpy because I hadn't had my coffee yet. So I'm sorry if I took a tone, right? Sometimes people just perceive things based on a tone. And it could be that, you just saw something on Instagram or something completely different happened that had nothing to do with that actual relationship or that interaction. And we start to perceive things and make things up. So very useful to notice, and this is part of the 4 agreements as well, to notice what we assume, what we make up about the things that happen, okay, the things that are said, the relationships that we engage and interact in. And not to give it too much weight, not to make it a permanent truth. Oh, this person said this, and therefore they're this way, and therefore they think that this about me, and therefore I am this way, right? So I can say, I feel this based on something that happened, right? But it's not that someone did something to me, because they probably didn't. It really likely had nothing to do with you. It's we're all working with our own stuff. Okay, so noticing what we take on from somebody else's truth, from somebody else's perspective, which also isn't wrong. You might not be aligned with it. You might not find it valid based on your principles, based on your way of life. Okay, but letting yourself have your own experience that's totally valid, and letting someone else have their own their own experience that's totally valid. Okay, and we don't always need to completely align, completely make sense, and fill in all the blanks and figure out the whole thing, right? But just acknowledging that I'm allowed to have my truth, they're allowed to have their truth, and we also get to tune into a broader, bigger truth. Okay, so then the question becomes, what do I want to do based on how I feel? So it's valid for me to feel sad, it's valid for me to feel angry, it's not wrong. However, do I want to perpetuate sadness or anger? Do I want to act based on sadness or anger? Or do I want to look at that as, okay, I filled in the blanks, I made some assumptions, I'm bringing my own history, my own background, my own wounds and trauma perhaps to this situation, to the table right now. And this is an opportunity for me to look at that. Why am I reacting like this? And how do I want to engage in this situation? How do I want to engage in this relationship and in the world based on a broader, more permanent truth? Okay, so that could be, and I like to use affirmations for this practice, like I am loving, I am peaceful, I am kind, these sorts of things. I am compassionate, right? So I'm having compassion for myself and honoring that my own feelings are real and valid. And I'm also having compassion for the other person, that they may have done something or said something that they didn't mean to do, or they didn't mean to have it come off in that particular way. Or even if they did, that it's not about me, right? It's not a reflection of me, and it's not a reflection of the truth of the world or the universe. Okay, so yeah, let's take a look at that for a moment. And this is part of my Live Your Yoga journey. I'm giving kind of little teasers, little free content here that's part of my Live Your Yoga journey. So in Live Your Yoga, we go through week by week or 2 weeks by 2 weeks for my upcoming program, each of these principles, and really dive in, really apply it to your own life. So look, for a whole week or for a whole 2 weeks, how does Satya, how does truth arise? What are the temporary truths? What more permanent truths can I tune into, and how do I want to enact them? How do I want to engage in the world? So let's bring hands to heart center. And notice what is true right now. What is true that pretty much no one would argue with? So I can say my location in the world. I can say what I'm wearing. I can say certain qualities of the physicality of my body and the physicality around me, the sensation. The time of day, so the relationship between the earth and the sun and the moon. These are all things that can be said to be true right now that most people wouldn't argue with. That I'm wearing this piece of clothing, I'm sitting on this carpet in this location in New York State, a little bit after 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's also true that I feel a little hungry, maybe a little tired, but also motivated. It also feels true certain doubts and fears that come up in my mind. However, in a broader sense and a larger truth, I don't want to give too much weight to those doubts and fears. And I also don't want to give too much weight to my physical circumstances right now, because they're going to change immediately. So I can allow my body to rest in the right now, in the moment. And trusting that everything will change. The stuff that I like and the stuff that I don't like will change. So resting in the spaciousness of this intersection of time and space. And so notice for you what that feels like, what that is. And then what is the truth that you are tuning into, that you do want to validate? Your point of focus. So even when things get wild, even when you feel really uncomfortable, really scared, having a lot of fears around who somebody else is or who you are or how the world is, what truth are you returning to? And I'm returning to love. I'm returning to love over and over again. Returning to trust, returning to compassion, returning to a more vast understanding of life and consciousness rather than the little thoughts that float by. I'm going to chant the verse for Satya a few times. It says, Satya pratishtayam kriya palashrayatvam, which means one who is established in the practice of Satya. Their words will be made manifest. Their truth will be made manifest. So this is also an invitation to be careful what you say and what thoughts you allow, what feelings you allow to perpetuate in the temporary space. So keeping the temporary and tuning back into that larger sense of truth as we're constantly creating our reality. Satya pratishtayam kriya palashvrayatvam. I'll chant it 3 times. Satya pratishtayam kriya palashrayatvam. Palashrayatvam. Let's close with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Om. Let the eyes peek open. Oh, a couple people joined live today. Thanks for joining. I am launching my Live Your Yoga program in the fall. So if you're interested in working with me and with a group, with a community of like-minded seekers for a 6-month program dealing with these yama and niyama, dealing with these principles that I've been sharing, please reach out. I'm doing calls and taking applications now. So yeah, I'll be sharing more of the details in the coming days and weeks. And thanks for tuning in. See you soon.